As an addition to the Christmas play today, I would like to share with you one of the stories that has become very popular at Christmas time. This one is written by Tom Haig and is entitled A Cup of Christmas Tea. The logs were in the fireplace, all spiced and set to burn. At last, the yearly Christmas race was in the clubhouse curtain. Cards were in the mail, all the gifts beneath the tree, and I had 30 days reprieve till Pisa could catch up with me. And though glum, smug satisfaction seemed the order of the day, something still was nagging me and wouldn't go away. A week before, I'd had a letter from an old great mom. It read, "Of course I'll understand completely if you can't, but if you find you have some time, how lovely it would be if we could have a chat and maybe share a cup of Christmas tea." She'd had a mild stroke that year that crippled her left side. Though housebound now, my folks had said if we hadn't hurt her pride, they said, how lovely that would be if you could go and maybe share a cup of Christmas tea. But boy, I didn't want to go. What a bitter pill to see an old relation and how far she'd gone downhill. I remembered Christmas Eve when she regaled us half the night. She was positive and encouraging, and I didn't want to lose all that. I didn't want the pain. I didn't want to be depressed. I didn't want the strain. And what about my brother? Why not him? He's his on too. I thought I had it justified. But then, before I knew all the reasons not to go I so carefully had built, came crashing down and crumbling in an acid rain of guilt. I put on boots, gloves, and cap, shame stinging every pore, and armed with squeegee, sand, and man, I went out my front door. As I drove in from the suburbs to the older part of town, the pastel shades of newer homes gave way to gray and brown. I had that disembodied feeling as my car pulled up and stopped beside the little house that held the Christmas cup. How I got up to a door, I really couldn't tell. I watched my hand rise up and push the button of the bell, then stood there, aided by my nervous rocking to and fro. And just as I decided I would turn around and go, I heard the rattle of the china of the hutch against the wall. The triple beat of 2 feet and a crutch came down the hall. The turning of the door's latch, the sliding of the bolt, and a little painful struggle popped it open with a jolt. She stood there, pale, tiny, looking fragile as an egg. I forced myself from staring at the brace that held her leg. And though her thick bifocals seemed to crack and spread her eyes, their milky and refracted depths lit up with young surprise. "Come in, come in." She laughed the words. She took me by the hand and all my fears dissolved away, as if by her command. We went inside, and there, before I had time to react, before my eyes and ears and nose, was Christmas past, alive, intact. The scent of candied oranges, of cinnamon, of pine, the antique wooden soldiers in their military line, the Dresden and the china I'd always loved so much, the porcelain nativity I'd been also loved so much. My spirit fairly bolted like a child out of class and danced among the ornaments of chemical and glass. Like magic, I was 6 again, deep in a Christmas spell, steeped in a million memories the child inside knew well. And there, beside the Christmas tree, so lovingly displayed, a lovely place of honor for the things we kids had made. My spirit fairly bolted again, like a child out of class, and danced among the ornaments of calico glass. And there beside the Christmas tree, the center of it all, my great aunt stood and said how nice it was I'd come to call. We sat. I rattled on about the weather and the flu. She listened very patiently, then smiled and said, "What's new?" Thoughts and words began to flow. I started making sense. I lost that phony breeziness I use when I get tense. Simple generalities still center on the fence. She demanded the specifics, the particulars, the bits. We talked about the trials that she'd had to face. She spoke with utter candor, with humor and good grace. Then, defying the reality of crutch and certainty, on wings of hospitality, she flew to brew the tea. I sat alone, with feelings that I hadn't felt in years. I looked around at Christmas through a thick, hot blur of tears. At the holly and the ivy she'd arranged on every shelf. The impossibly good cookies she still somehow baked herself. But these rich, tactile memories became quite pale and thin when measured by the Christmas my great aunt kept beat within. Her body had nearly spent, but my great aunt was whole. I saw a Christmas miracle, the triumph of a soul. The triple beat of 2 feet and a crutch came down the hall. The rattle of the china in the hutch against the wall. She poured 2 cups, she smiled, she handed one to me, and then we settled back and shared our cup of Christmas tea.